What are like some of the major areas that you work with?
I basically put it into three areas that you can work on trading.
This particular behavior, is it ingrained in us? This kind of gambling mentality?
They think they're trading, but they're gambling. And they think because there's a technical aspect to it.
What are main areas, things, factors playing out?
It's different depending on the experience. Another one that comes up a lot is.
Welcome to the Trading Map podcast, everyone. Again, where we break down market structure, risk, how you can endure a long game of trading, and how you as a developing trader can continue to improve. Today, I'm joined by Alex from England, who has spent more than 11 years in the markets and now works as a trading psychology and performance coach. Throughout this conversation, we explore trading psychology, behavioral patterns, habits, and routines that support performance, and lessons from his experience, actionable insights for traders looking to strengthen their mindset and become more consistent. So if you have your iPad or your notebook nearby, this might be a great opportunity to jot down and have a few key takeaways. Now let's get right into the conversation. Hey, Alex, thank you so much for jumping on and really taking the time and planning for this podcast. Why don't we start with a bit of your introduction, how kind of you got started a bit in trading and then you transition more on the performance side and the psychology side and really bringing in better results working with traders. And as we were discussing at the, before jumping into this conversation about you have been working with poker players and it just literally any areas of fields where people need to perform better and really optimize routines and behaviors, and whether like both on the psychology side, on the physical performance side, and all of those areas. So just a bit of your introduction first.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, firstly. Yeah, my name's Alex Morgan. I'm a performance coach for traders. But as you said, I do work with other people as well. So I tend to work with professional poker players, business owners, and athletes as well. Yeah, trading is the sort of niche I picked on social media because it's my background. Yeah, how did I get into trading? Well, I don't have a background in terms of my qualifications, but I just was working jobs. I then started up businesses because I didn't want to work for someone. And then as time went on, I just sort of thought to myself, okay, I saw other people learning trading, and I thought, yeah, this is something I could do that would be even better in terms of not tying me down like businesses were that I'd had. And so, yeah, I learned to trade. Um, During that time, I had issues, particularly with taking losses, but probably I had every issue that you can think of that I had to work on. And so, obviously, I won't go through all the different issues I had, but the taking losses was a big one. So, it was very difficult to start with, but I managed to sort of work through it in terms of I was profitable, I was earning money, but it still played on me in terms of how I felt at the end of the day. So it was still having an effect on me, but maybe not, in terms of the financial side of it. And so then I knew a couple of professional poker players. They were working with a coach and working on their subconscious. And to me at the time, I was very, very skeptical about it. Even they worked with him, they improved not only their poker, but they also improved their lives in general. And it still took me some time to decide to actually work with him. But when I did, yeah, I just had to admit basically that this had worked, and it changed everything really. And then once I did that, I became interested in the work myself, and yeah, that kind of led to me doing the coaching. And so, yeah, that's how it's kind of evolved, really.
Got it. So when you actually started trading and you saw that there were areas, just not the external, but the internal areas as well, that were just not going in the right direction. And that
Mm.
kind of like really pushed you a bit in terms of doing more research and really finding that what are other options. And of course, in any field, there are performance coaches, right? And
Yeah,
if,
yeah.
if you look at one of some of the top guys, Michael Jordan had a coach, and he says to this day that I could not have survived or did what I did without my coach. And so I think having a coach or someone working by your side and pointing out the areas that will need attention, I think it is a great resource to have,
Hmm.
and especially in our field in trading. I think it plays a big role in terms of really optimizing the performance and operating at the best. So I think, and I was looking at your content, I think some of the content you are putting out, and I will encourage our audience also to go and check out some of your content also, just some of the free nuggets of knowledge that you're putting out on the social media channels. So I think those are pretty good as well. And so I mean, I think one of the best areas to delve into will be that what are like some of the major areas that you work with, with traders or with poker players or any other domains that you generally see like these areas they need more work. So what
Hmm.
are some of those major areas?
Yeah, so I basically put it into three areas that you can work on trading. Let's just pick trading for now. And that would come under consciously working on things, so more willpower, that type of thing. You can do work on things in terms of the mechanical side of it. So let's just say like top step. You can block yourself, you can put max daily losses, you can do things like that. That's what I'd call more mechanical. Then also under the sort of mechanical umbrella, I would say if I'm working with someone, it would be the accountability as well. So them telling me they've done the things they should be doing, and the things that we're working on. And then lastly, it would be the subconscious areas. And I think that's probably, yeah, probably one of the area that really I would work on that most other people don't. So most people would coach as we are now, talking backwards and forwards, which is good. It's really our conscious mind is more dominant at the moment, and so the area I would work on differently would be as I say, the subconscious, because that's really where our habits, beliefs, our memories as well are. And so to tap into that, that would be really the main thing that I would say makes a difference. So that's the first thing. Then also within that, obviously there would be the emotional issues. And that is a big part of what I do. That tends to be, the subconscious areas I just talked about. It would be using your breath and being able to take breaks and things like that. So that's more sort of conscious things that you can do to help with emotions. But then also there's the general performance things as well. So because I work with different areas, more traders, but I work with other areas. I would say professional poker players, for example, are a lot further ahead in terms of performance than traders, although the issues are very similar.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is a lot more professional poker players would have a decent sort of pre-session or pre-performance routine. They may have a post-session routine. And the idea of working with someone like me is a lot more further ahead in the poker world than it is in trading. And that's largely because the top players in poker have worked with or have worked on their subconscious. And so it's just more talked about. But in trading, I would say it's quite far behind, I would say, than where it could be.
Right. Got it. I think like some of those areas, I think these are pretty solid, like you mentioned about the willpower, accountability, the subconscious side, and of course the emotional areas as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And I think we can expand a bit more and more like in respect to trading. So I
Hmm.
think that will
Yeah,
give
for sure.
audience a bit more better understanding. Let's just delve into a bit more. I mean, I have been trading for almost 12 years now. I have really seen all the ups and downs, and it really takes a different kind of person to win into trading. You literally have to be a robot while staying flexible and
Mm.
constantly changing according to the conditions in the markets. And I think willpower and accountability, all of those areas are really really important. And so let's delve a bit on the more surface level
Hmm.
things, because I think subconscious is more like, some of the things that you even can't see, but the patterns are still playing out in the
Yeah.
hindsight, right? So as far as the emotional areas are concerned, what are a couple of main areas, things, factors that you see playing out when a trader is starting, and not just starting, but when they actually make it on the other side and they become successful? How's the gap looking, and what are the areas that, like, they become hurdle?
Yeah, so there's obviously is quite a bit of difference. I think when well, I think the first thing I would say as well, just before all of this, is I think a lot of people are going to expect me to say that yes, it's all about mindset, it's all about psychology. But the first thing I always say is you need to have your strategy sorted out. I don't work with people that don't have a strategy with an edge, and that's the very, very first thing, because some people end up almost using the psychology as an excuse as to why they're not profitable. So I just always say that is the very first thing. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think when you're first starting out with trading, it's obviously difficult because it's completely different to what we used to. We're not used to probabilities. We're not used to thinking in the long term. We're used to thinking more short term. That's how our brains have evolved. And I think, if there was one area which I would say causes most of the problems, it's the fact of needing the long term, and people are just not set up for that. We're not wired for that.
Mhm.
And I think the losses obviously is difficult, very, very difficult to start with. And for some people, just the sheer repetitions of going through losses can help. For other people, it takes a bit longer. And for other people, it could be the case that there's something triggering them emotionally, which they would need to work on at a deeper level. So it would be almost like what the losses actually mean about them at a deeper level. So it can be different sort of stages. Revenge trading, is obviously a big one. And that can still happen when traders are profitable. So a lot of people think it only comes, more at the start. But let's say, um, I don't know, like a prop firm, you're due for a payout, or yeah, you had a certain percentage in your account, then you get the email, the dreaded email to say that they've refused it or something's changed. That in itself can trigger people to differing degrees, obviously, around unfairness. And so then if you were to trade, I don't know, an hour later or the same day, then if you got stopped out, which normally for an experienced trader they would be okay with because they're used to it, and they're wired in a different way, that
Mhm.
can actually trigger them because it feels unfair due to what had gone on earlier with the prop firm. So there's a lot of different areas where people think, oh yeah, well I won't do this because I've been trading and normally I don't. And that's just not the case. So even if you're, I don't know, you've got emotional problems going on with relationships outside of trading,
Yeah.
if you carry those emotions into trading, even if you're an experienced trader, A, when you're emotional, you're not going to be able to call on your sort of prefrontal cortex, the part where you would actually stick to your rules, the more logical part of your brain. But also, it would be the case that you're more likely to get more emotional if you
Mhm.
go in with the emotion. So that, it's different depending on the experience. Another one that comes up a lot is what is known as wealth thermostat issues, where you're okay earning or having accounts of a certain size, but when it goes beyond that size, that can feel uncomfortable due to potentially, things like what your parents talked about, people with money when you were younger, your self-worth. And so I do tend to laugh a bit when I see some of the social media posts. I know people are selling courses and whatever, but they sort of tend to say that, my course, my system, you won't get triggered emotionally, there's no emotions involved. things like the wealth thermostat, that's got nothing to do with your strategy. So always be a bit wary of people saying that there won't be any emotions, no one gets emotionally triggered, because some of these things are not to do with trading per se. They are to do with, the subconscious programs, patterns that you have. So yeah, there's a lot of different emotional things that are going on. People could be triggered by mistakes as well. And that can come back to how mistakes were dealt with when they were younger. Mistakes were criticized, seen as a bad thing, something that you were judged upon. And so, yeah, it can trigger you emotionally. And the thing probably I should say at this stage is our brains are always predicting, and they're predicting on past experiences, and it doesn't have to necessarily have anything to do with trading. So something that you've incurred, like a loss, even a loss of a toy or whatever, when you were 6 years of age, that experience and that memory saved through the eyes of the 6 year old would be something potentially that you could be predicting on as an adult trading. And I think that's a big thing, that people think that it just comes about, these emotional issues, from what's going on in the charts, what's happening in terms of trading. It's more, what does whatever's going on in terms of the charts mean to you based on your past experience, or based
Mhm.
on what's happened recently, or what's emotional for you.
Yeah, and I think like it's a very complex area to delve into.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's quite, yeah,
Somewhat
yeah,
easy to deal with. And I think one of the solutions is like really find someone like you who has like really gone through the journey, and at the same time, have some solid background as well. Just do a bit of research and find a coach. At the same time, I feel that people are and traders are at different stages of
yeah.
their growth and evolution. And so, what are techniques that you will suggest for someone sitting at home, or let's say a retail trader? If they're having great resources, please reach out to Alex and see that if you can find a solution, right? But let's say if the resources are limited, they're starting in the journey, and it is already difficult, like from day one it is already difficult to become a trader, and to become a successful one, that's a whole new game. It's just not that easy. So couple of techniques that they can write down or implement, or they let's say the traders can be aware of to
Yeah,
start.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I would say if there's any traders that, probably wouldn't have the resources to pay for the one-to-one coaching, you can still reach out to me on LinkedIn. Is probably the easiest one that I'm more often on. And just drop me a message. Always happy to help. That's the reason, really, I went on LinkedIn and started doing the social media in the last sort of year. Previous to that, I didn't really do it. I was getting work through referrals, really, only. So that's the first thing. Yeah, in terms of what you can do, meditation is like the big thing that I would start with. And for me, um, again, not enough people do it. Even if I start working with people, or if I talk to people, some of the answers I get are, well, meditation is not going to make me a good trader. And of course, it's not on its own. And it goes back to, you need the strategy. But the thing is, if you can't meditate, if you can't sit still with your own thoughts and feelings, how do you think you're going to do that while you're trading? And in terms of patience, patience is a very, very big factor. Obviously, it depends on what style you're trading, to how much the patience is a factor, but it is a factor, I'd say, for, basically everyone. Then things like meditation are a great way to improve that. Patience is a skill. It's not like, people say to me, I'm just not patient. That's just not good enough. That's just an excuse. You can work on it. It's a skill. Meditation would be one thing. Even with patience, if you're in a queue, um, at a shop or wherever, don't pull out your phone. Be okay with just being on your own, just being on your own with your thoughts, without having to move away from, being on your own with your thoughts, trying to distract yourself. So that would be the first one, meditation. I think just to sort of put it in the next one in a big sort of bracket would be just working on the like the self-care, the things that you can do in terms of your sleep. So making sure that your sleep is in a good place, making sure that you're eating decent food. Um, I'm not saying you have to just eat lettuce leaves all week or whatever. You can have your bad meals or cheat meals or whatever people call them, but generally, when you're trading, most of the time, 80%, whatever they say, should be decent food. So yeah, your sleep, that exercise as well, that's going to help with your sleep. Um, it's going to help with your energy as well. What other things would I say? So yeah, those are kind of like the basic ones. Even like things like reading. Reading is very good in terms of having to focus on one thing. And it's actually very good as well in terms of, I would say, getting you into a flow state, which is obviously concentrating on one particular thing. So reading's very good. I mean, there's a lot I could say about flow state, but I think maybe we'll do that another time, maybe. Um, so yeah, those things, I think the things that don't really cost any money that people just don't really think about. Then I would sort of factor in the pre-performance routine. So, if you're not doing anything before you start trading, you need to ask yourself why, because trading is a performance based activity. And any other person that is operating in a performance based activity world, as it were, is doing some sort of pre performance or warm up or whatever. So if you're not, why do you think you don't have to when athletes, poker players, whoever, they are, because they realize that, you need to go from your everyday sort of waking state that you're operating in into a performance state, and you need to have some sort of routine that takes you from one to another. And also, that's going to help with emotions or emotional carryover. And then the same thing really with a post session routine. So making sure that, you take yourself from your trading to your back to your everyday life, particularly if maybe if you've got a family or other people around you, don't carry your emotions. And that's important because people otherwise can kind of, if you see it like carrying your emotions around as baggage, you kind of take it to bed with you, you get up the next day and you're trading still. Obviously it's lessened to some degree, but you're still carrying those emotions if you don't have that pre-performance and post-performance routines, really.
Right. I think like those are more of the technical areas in terms of the routines, like the pre-performance and the post-performance routines. I think
Yeah,
I'm sure you'll be having more deeper strategies on that front, and I'm sure like they're just scratching the surface today, just the
yeah,
overall areas that traders can focus on. So just to put it in a good structure, what you are suggesting is start with meditation,
yeah.
be aware about first the very first thing is just starting to become aware of the patterns that are playing out, and that will only happen when the mind is a bit silent and that internal the compass is on, and you
Hmm.
are just noticing that hey, these patterns are actually playing out on a day to day basis, and so noticing the patterns, but
Yeah,
that's the very
definitely. Yeah,
second.
because otherwise, a lot of people, sorry, interruption you there. Otherwise, a lot of people are just on autopilot, and that's going to help you in terms of, the things that are going on. So if I've worked with someone, for a couple of months or something, and they've been meditating, you start to hear them say, um, okay, I had an emotional morning, and then let's say they were trading, in London and New York, and then New York, either they were aware of it, they were able to pick up on it and not trade in the afternoon. If you're in Europe, I'm speaking. Um, and, that sort of thing, even if you're not able to stop yourself, as some people aren't when they're progressing, the very fact that you actually are aware of it and you're able to notice it, you're on a decent path because you're moving towards being able to do that. So yeah, it's about noticing these things, being aware of it, um, that helps obviously with your journaling as well, the emotional journaling for sure, and just really being able to make decisions. So should you take a break? Are you feeling too emotional? Should you not trade in the afternoon or whatever? So yeah, that's really the first thing. Is just the awareness really.
And when we are trading in the live environment, I think right away noticing those patterns while they are playing out, and really noticing those, the live action, noticing those during that live action, and really just putting a better understanding into the moment. So I
Hmm.
think that is another interesting area to work on. And of course, like you mentioned, these habits and routines and patterns, they're going to play out in the personal life as
Yeah.
well, right? And
Oh yeah, I mean meditation, of course, obviously when I'm working with someone, they come to me for the trading, let's say.
Mhm.
And so I want to improve their trading with getting them to meditate. But to be honest, for me, it's great to hear like, I had someone the other week where he said, yeah, my wife and my daughter have noticed how much more relaxed I am. And so for me, that's just an added bonus, and I like to hear things like that because obviously we want to be the best version of ourselves in our private life as well as our trading. So yeah, it's going to affect everything really. Even with exercise, I say to people that it's going to improve your confidence as well if you're in better shape.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's a lot of different things that go together with it.
I think those are really, really great insights. I think, one of the major areas, I think, and I get curious about this as well from time to time as a trader. And I thought that I'm going to ask this question from you for
Yeah,
sure.
go for it. Yeah.
When we are starting as new into the market, a
Hmm.
new trader coming into the market, I think one of the biggest issues that I've seen personally for myself, because of which I had a really bad journey
Hmm.
for good amount of years, and that was the expectations of
Yeah.
making big money,
Hmm.
taking really huge risks without having a you know like great understanding. Because I mean, like, if you are just going out for a normal job, let's say in tech or in marketing or any other profession, you're gonna go through those 3 4 years of through the college and graduating from there and really building up at least some good amount of technical understanding of that area. And then you
Hmm.
you, you get to train in real time with a particular company for a couple of months, and then you get into momentum.
Yeah.
But in trading, it's the opposite. Like, a trader will come and they start expecting that in, let's say, just like couple of months, I'm going to make it big.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
generally what happens, it will turn out to be the complete opposite of that. So my question here is that, like, this particular behavior, is it ingrained in us as human beings, that this kind of gambling mentality? Or maybe I'm calling the wrong terminology here, maybe you can correct
No,
me.
I think you're calling it the right one. I think what a lot of people do is they're gambling. They're not actually trading. They think they're trading, but they're gambling. And
Mhm.
they think because there's a technical aspect to it, and they learn the technical aspect, they just assume that it's different. But yeah, from a lot of people I hear and see, yeah, most people are just gambling, I would say. But yeah, I think it's a great point. I mean, the first thing I would say is that, of course, social media, people are selling courses and they're selling the dream life. And I think that makes it very difficult. There's a lot of very, very bad, I suppose you'd say in a polite way, people in the industry. And yeah, I think it also attracts maybe a certain type of person. I suppose for me, my thing was just really freedom more so than, I mean, I suppose money, but freedom. I just wanted the freedom. But a lot of people, it's the money. But the
Mhm.
first thing I would sort of say about it is if you don't manage your expectations, then it is extremely difficult to manage your emotions because that's what we're doing. We're not controlling emotions.
I think so.
Whenever you see someone talk about controlling emotions, maybe they don't have a deeper understanding of it. You can't control them, you're managing them. And so if you don't manage the expectations, as I say, very, very difficult. That's the first thing. But I think also it's tied into the thing that I talked about earlier, which is this long term factor. And I just think that this is one of the biggest issues that people have. I see a lot of people consciously, they're saying to me, well, I'll give you an example. So, particularly with traders and poker players, as I said, they're very similar. They both got to think in the long term. So I've heard the same thing so many times where I will chat to someone for the first time. I'll mention the long term, and I hear every single time, you don't need to tell me that. I know that. And then I always follow it up with, yeah, I know you know it, but you're not acting like it. And knowing it and acting like it are two completely different things. And so everyone consciously knows it, but they're not acting like it. And that's the big difference. And so the sort of big thing I think you need to do is, yes, it's going to be difficult because we're wired for the short term. Some of us come into trading because we want the big money quickly. But what you need to do, and that's where, like, you can work on it subconsciously, but mechanically you can work on it as well. And that would be, don't judge your days on results. And I know everyone says that, and that's difficult as well,
Right.
but it's just not about not judging it on the results. You've got to have something else to replace that with. So you've got to have something else to replace the judging of days and weeks by. And for me, I think the best thing to do is really to have a set of criteria that you judge yourself on, like focus, energy, dealing with emotional situations. And then you can start to get further away from the results and judge yourself by how well you performed. Because, if you perform well and you have an edge, then you're going to make money. But the thing that people do in a wrong sense is they sort of say to people, "Oh yeah, I'm thinking of the long term," and then they post their results on a daily basis. Look how amazing my day was. And I
Yeah.
think, again, you're saying one thing to everyone and you're doing the complete opposite. And so even things like, judging your days red and green is obviously a big thing for traders. Red should be you didn't follow your rules. Green should be that you followed your rules. And stop talking about it with friends, family, other traders about how well you've done day by day. Day by day means nothing. It's all about the long term, the probabilities, and you need to come up with some of these mechanical things to make this easier.
Great. I think like it's really just managing the expectations, having that
Yeah.
long-term perspective as like any other job, and building out that technical edge and the research,
Hmm.
and starting small. I think
Yeah.
those are like couple of main areas which I totally like understand that these are difficult, really difficult to work on for
Yeah.
most
Yeah. It's easier said than
most of the
done, obviously. Yeah.
newcomers. They are easy to discuss, but difficult to execute on. But anything else you will add to those? So the expectations, really managing the expectations. That's first. Second is the long term perspective, building
Yeah.
out research and the technical edge and the data, and starting small.
Yeah, I mean, they're starting small. If I work with someone and they, buying loads of accounts and big accounts straight away, it's a bit of a red flag because it means they're
Mm.
too focused on the money rather than the
The
process.
process, yeah.
Yeah, which I know, again, it's easier said than done. And I'm not making out that I would sort of carry on with $5,000 accounts or $10,000 accounts. But yeah, I think that's the thing. People are trying to get ahead too quickly. You can sort of see it on social media quite a bit where people sort of say traders are expecting to earn this amount of six figure amounts after 2 months. If you were to train to be a doctor or a dentist or a lawyer or whatever, it's going to take, as you said earlier, a lot longer. And so, what makes us think that we can earn all that money in? But I just think social media and expectations, it makes it a lot more difficult, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and I mean, even in terms of working on emotions as well, when you first start out, you've got to expect that you're not going to like to take losses. because you're just not used to it. Normally, if you put a lot of effort into something, um, then you get results. You're going to have to deal with the fact that you do everything right and you still lose. But it's not about losing, it's about following your rules, and it's about, again, the long term. And so, for people that have emotional issues to start with, then I would say for a lot of people, or for a certain amount of people, it's going to change with repetitions, and just getting used to it. But if you've been trading for a while, and the same things are still coming up after like 6 months, a year, or whatever, then I would then think about, okay, what can I do about this? Because you're just probably having your brain predicting, and going through the pattern that it does to sort of build or form emotions, and it's just going off old patterns.
Mhm.
And then if someone's experienced and they're doing well, and this is another one that comes up quite a bit,
Mhm.
if they're doing well, they're profitable, and they're earning a certain amount of money, or they have, if they have their own account, they have a certain size account, they go up a bit, they come back down again, they get back to the same level. That is generally going to be like a wealth thermostat thing, where they're comfortable at that certain amount. When they go above it, they self sabotage and come back down. Then when they're below it, they can get themselves back up, things like that. If these things are repeating, um, then yeah, I mean, scientifically, it could change with repetitions over the years. But I mean, for some people in those situations, how long do you want to wait before it changes? So then maybe look at,
Mhm.
working on those emotional issues. But I think as well, if anyone is thinking about any sort of performance coach in terms of traders, whatever level they're at, it's basically got to pay for itself. If you're not getting the money, the return back again, then you need to look for another performance coach at the end of the day. It should just pay for itself pretty easily, because people can, even if they're profitable, you can always improve. So not everyone will need to work with someone, but you're always going to be able to improve if you want to. But yeah, it should just be like free money basically. And if it's not, then there's a problem.
Great, Alex, and we can really extend this question for another hour. I think it's a very deeper area to work on, but I think we are limited on the time as well in
Yeah,
your
that's no, that's fine. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we have already shared a lot of great insights and takeaways.
Good,
For
good. I'm glad
traders
to
to
hear.
start with, and we've just start with by implementing some of these initial techniques and
Yeah.
just get on this journey of constant growth and constant learning. I think that's the best place to be. And then, of course, you can reach out to more experienced traders and people and coaches like you, where the traders can actually see better performance and better progress. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, no problems at all. Yeah. I mean, just to finish up, I would say that, working on these things that I talked about, so working on, the meditation and your sleep, eating, pre performance, basically, you're just working on yourself with a lot of it. And so you're not only going to improve your trading, but you're going to improve your life as a whole as well. And
Totally
so I
agree
think that's
with that.
really the key thing, that, don't see it as it's just about trading, because it's actually not.
Totally agree with that. That's it's just so true. So just one last thing, Alex, where can traders find you online? So you mentioned LinkedIn, and if you'll allow me, I'll go ahead and like really leave a URL of your LinkedIn.
Yeah. Thank you. That'd be good. Yeah. Yeah.
And any are you on Instagram or TikToks of the world or just on LinkedIn?
Well, basically, I'm not on TikTok, Instagram, because as I said, I've kind of picked like a niche of people I work with. So LinkedIn, I've done trading. Instagram, I've actually done poker, just to for in terms of getting clients. So yeah, it's really LinkedIn. I have a school group as well, which I've set up, which is like a monthly thing where you
Nice.
get calls every week.
Mhm.
You get reduced one-to-one coaching costs, and there's accountability on a daily basis as well with that. So if anyone's interested in that, that's something more recent that I've done, because I've always just done one-to-one. But when I started to do the social media and branch out a bit, I thought, okay, how can I help people that are not actually in a place to afford the one-to-one and still get the accountability? So yeah,
Right.
that's another thing. But yeah, I can give you the link to that. But mainly it's LinkedIn, I would say.
Yeah, great, Alex. Please share your school link as well. I think that's already very popular, and traders, they want to find you. I can share that also in the show notes, and I think that will be great. And really wishing you a lot of success in your work. You are really trying to do a lot of genuine work, and of course, you have learned from your own trading journey as well
Yeah, yeah,
over
yeah,
time. So I think there is a lot of real time experience
yeah.
attached to your coaching work. So thank you so much for taking the time, and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much for having us on. Yeah, it was great. Thank you for the chat today.
And with that, we have reached the end of today's episode, everyone. Before we wrap up, I would like to thank the sponsor of the Trading Map podcast, which is Bull Street Edge. Bull Street Edge is a trading technology company built for traders who are serious about improving their execution, decision making, and overall market performance. This platform offers a lot of tools, including a trading journal, AI trading coach, charting tools, research, watch lists, and access to an expanding community of traders. If you're looking to bring more structure, accountability, and clarity to your trading process, be sure to check them out. You'll find their link in the show notes below. And if you found the conversation valuable today, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the episode with other traders who are committed to improving their craft. I will continue bringing on experienced guests to share practical insights and real world trading experience. Again, thanks so much for spending time with us today, and I'll see you in the next episode. And until then, stay disciplined, stay focused, and be great.